The Manhattan skyline was glowing beneath a cold evening sky. Robert Hale began his final cleaning round inside the 42nd floor of Hayes International. Most employees had already gone home, leaving the massive corporate tower unusually quiet. Robert preferred working nights. The schedule allowed him to take care of his 10-year-old daughter, Grace. During the day, he prepared her breakfast, helped with homework, and made sure she got to school on time. Then, after dinner, he left for work. Being a single father wasn't easy, but Robert never complained. He had learned to measure success differently. A paid electricity bill mattered. A full refrigerator mattered. Grace smiling when he came home mattered most. That evening, Robert entered the private executive suite belonging to Margaret Sinclair, the company's billionaire CEO. Her office was normally spotless, but a long board meeting had left papers scattered across the desk. Robert carefully cleaned around the chairs, collected empty coffee cups, and emptied the wastebasket. As he moved a stack of folders, something heavy caught his attention. An expensive black envelope had fallen behind a cabinet. Robert picked it up. There was no name written on it. He opened it slightly to identify the owner. His eyes widened. Inside were stacks of $100 bills. Robert counted quickly. $100,000. For several seconds, he simply stared. $100,000 could change his life. He could pay off his car. He could move Grace into a better apartment. He could put money aside for her college education. He could even reduce his working hours. But then Robert closed the envelope. He knew exactly what he had to do. He walked straight to the security desk. "Where did you find this?" the security supervisor asked. "Inside Mrs. Sinclair's office." The supervisor opened the envelope and froze. "This is $100,000. Robert nodded. "I'm sure you don't want anything for returning it." Robert shook his head. "No." The supervisor looked at him strangely. "Most people would at least ask for a reward." Robert smiled. "I have a daughter. I want her to know that doing the right thing still matters, even when nobody is watching." Unbeknownst to Robert, a security camera had captured everything. Margaret Sinclair was reviewing security footage in her home office that night when she saw Robert discover the envelope. She watched him count the money. She watched him hesitate, and she watched him walk directly to security. Margaret had spent years around wealthy executives, investors, and powerful business leaders. She had seen people lie over millions of dollars, but this janitor had just returned $100,000 without taking a single bill. The next morning, Margaret arrived at the office early. She instructed her assistant to find Robert. "Tell him I need to see him in my office." When Robert received the message, he became nervous. He had no idea that the billionaire CEO had watched the entire recording. He entered the elevator and pressed the button for the executive floor. As the doors closed, Robert wondered whether he was about to be questioned about the money. He never imagined the meeting would change his life. Robert stepped into Margaret Sinclair's office the next morning, still wearing his Navy work uniform. He stood near the door, uncertain why the billionaire CEO had personally requested to see him. Margaret gestured toward a chair. "Please sit down." Robert sat. For a moment, Margaret said nothing. Then she placed a small folder on the desk. "I watched the security footage from last night." Robert immediately understood. "The money." Margaret nodded. "You found $100,000 and turned it over without taking anything." Robert shrugged. "It wasn't mine." Margaret studied him. "Do you understand how rare that answer is?" Robert smiled slightly. "I just did what I would want my daughter to do." Margaret leaned back. "What's her name?" "Grace." "How old?" 10. Margaret nodded. "Why do you work nights?" Robert hesitated. "Because I'm raising her alone. The schedule lets me be there during the day." Margaret looked at him differently now. She had assumed Robert was simply another member of the cleaning staff. She hadn't known he was a father, working 2 shifts of life every day, one for his employer and another for his child. "Tell me something," Margaret said. "What would you have done if you had kept the money?" Robert thought for a moment. "I might have solved some problems temporarily." "Which problems?" "My rent, Grace's school expenses, a few bills." Margaret nodded. "But you still returned it." "Yes." "Why?" Robert looked directly at her. "Because money can fix a bill. It can't fix the kind of person I become." Margaret remained silent. Those words stayed with her. Finally, she opened another folder. "I want to offer you a new position." Robert looked confused. "A new position?" "Building operations manager." Robert stared at her. "You're serious?" "Completely." She explained that the role would include supervising maintenance teams, coordinating contractors, and overseeing building operations. It came with a substantial salary increase and daytime hours. Robert hesitated. "I appreciate the offer, but I don't want charity." Margaret smiled. "This isn't charity." She pointed toward the folder. "You earned it the moment you chose honesty when nobody was watching." Robert looked down at the offer. offer. I'll work for it. I expect you to, she smiled. Then I'll accept. Months passed. Robert learned the new position quickly. His experience as a janitor had taught him details about the building that many executives had never noticed. He knew which elevators needed maintenance, which systems caused problems, and which employees needed support. His department became more efficient. Margaret began asking for his opinion during important operational meetings. One afternoon, she passed Robert in the lobby. He was standing beside Grace, who had come to visit her father after school. Margaret smiled. "Is this your daughter?" Grace nodded. Robert introduced them. Margaret crouched slightly. "Your dad is one of the most honest people I've ever met." Grace looked proudly at Robert. "I know." That evening, as Robert drove home with Grace beside him, he realized something had changed. He hadn't become successful because someone handed him money. He had been given an opportunity because he had proven his character. The $100,000 he returned had become worth far more than its cash value. It had opened a door to a better future for him and his daughter. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Enlightened Story, and drop a comment below telling us what you'd have done in Robert's place.